focus on encampments. We haven't been given many details. The details will matter. We don't need to clog up our courts to deal with encampments. The notwithstanding clause is not a solution for our housing crisis. When we have a homelessness situation, the solution is housing. It does not matter if you have the ability to remove people if they have nowhere to go. That's why we're asking the province to partner with us on real solutions to end homelessness, including creating more supportive housing, provide rent supplements, raise the social assistance rates, more mental health and addiction support. These will help people experiencing homelessness get back on their feet rather than shuffling them around from park to park. This year, the city is spending an enormous amount of money, and as in last year, to support people living in our shelters. I'm now open for questions.
Mayor, you've seen the province meddle in city affairs and remove city bike lanes. Do you have any concern that they could step into this and somehow remove encampments?
That they would physically do it themselves, provide OPP would come in. I can't speculate. I doubt that that's what they plan to do. I understand some of the mayors having difficulty because from the Big City Mayor Caucus conversation, we all list the number of homelessness sleeping on the street. They all have issues. And some of them don't have, because they're smaller municipality, may not have the financial capacity that we do. So it's hard for them to build shelters, build supportive housing. Let me say one thing. It takes a while to build extra shelters. We are building 5. It takes a while to build supportive housing. We're building as many as we can afford to. But rent supplement, we can immediately take people off the street into a shelter, take the shelter, people on shelter, and there are 12,000 of them, into homes immediately tomorrow if we can get a bit more shelter allowance. And this is called the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefits. And it stopped this year, end of March, for 6 months. We were not able to move people into homes. We used to be able to each month put 300 people from shelters into homes. Then it would open up the space, move the people off from the encampments into shelters, or move some people directly from camps into homes. So if you think about it, that's 6 months. 1,800 people did not get shelter allowance and could not have a place for home. So if we could provide a bit more shelter allowance, we would be able to, just like we are doing in Allen's Garden, for example, able to bring people indoors. It is cold out there, so let's do that together now.
Mayor Chow, is this political posture on the problem of homelessness and not actual action to solve the problem?
I'm here to sell you something
in a way that we think is cool.
I don't want to comment on people's intention, but I do hear and see the desperation of many mayors across Ontario. I read their numbers. We're on a WhatsApp group together. And every day they're saying, oh my God, what are we going to do? It's getting cold, and they have photos of people in tents in their city, and it's growing and growing and growing. And if you look at there are some, because we are not single tier, we are single tier, and a lot of the municipalities are 2 tiers, right? So it's the mayor that, but the provincial dealing with shelters are upper tier for them. So it's the upper tier, sorry to get into weeds on this, versus a single tier. So some of the mayors just don't have the financial capacity to do what needs to be done, right? We are trying our best. We still are not nowhere near enough because you're seeing tents out there. We are reducing them as much as we can. But as the rent rises, you are seeing these folks in Daily Bread Food Bank. You look at the dramatic increase of the use of Daily Bread Food Bank. And the number of young people that are in our shelter right now, right? These are kids. And they are just, and some of them, like tomorrow is December 6th. It's Montreal Massacre Memorial Day. And some of them are leaving abusive relationship. That's why they're out in the street. And they're waiting for shelters and they're just desperate. Some of them are sleeping in cars and couch surfing. And some of them end up on the streets. It's just tragic what's happening.
So this is sort of like viewed by a lot of people like bike lanes. Whether you believe they contribute to congestion or not, the Ford government is doing something about it. In this particular case here now, the Ford government is doing something. Why, in your estimation, is this not the right thing?
The Ford government is bringing legislation together to say that if they don't go, right now the law said that if there's no space for you to go, municipality cannot physically move you. Okay, that is the Waterloo legal, that's the judge, that's the court decision. What the premier is saying that do what you can, please get people inside. Okay, so far good, right? And then, but if you need it, we are here to help, right? That's what he's saying. The kind of help that we really need, that the Big City Mayor Caucus collectively all said is, please help us build more supportive housing. Help us create more shelters. Help us bring people indoor. At the end of the day, that is what will work. That's the only thing that will work. Homelessness crisis, build housing that is affordable. It's not rocket science.
Last one?
Just on the police budget, I guess we can go in tandem on this, but the police are asking for $46 million as an increase. Do you support that?
For the first time in 10 years, we finally have a police staffing plan. It means that they would be able to, for 5 years, hire the number of officers that are enough for them to be on the front line. It means increasing the neighborhood community officer, which is desperately needed by the local residents. If you go to any meetings with local residents, they said, what works for you? Neighborhood community officers, they call it NCO, right? And there's a unit. So in order for us to support the police and keep the streets safe, people are saying we need more officers. We need faster response time. So for the first time in 10 years, we have a staffing plan. They will have the capacity to hire over 300 officers per year. Now, that's not net office because quite a lot of officers are retiring. So, but each year they're going to be able to hire more officers, which I totally support. And the increase is still under, I believe, 4%.
So Mayor Chow, then you're not expecting a repeat of the fight last year at council over the funding, and you don't plan to bring in a lower number in your budget?
You do notice that I put the budget chief onto the police service board to wrestle with the police budget, and she worked hard, and the chief, through their leadership, came up with this staffing plan, which I totally support. In order to have stability and predictability of the number of officers that you have each year, you have to have a plan. all these years, it goes up and down. No one gets hired for a few years, and then there are people that got hired, and then so it goes up and down. How could you manage a police force if you can't tell how many people you're going to have, right? It doesn't work. The paramedics, the Toronto Paramedic Service, the Toronto Fire, all have a hiring plan, and they are following through. So you didn't see any drama last year or the year before or the year now, hopefully. No drama on the number of firefighters or the paramedics that are going to be hired because there's a plan. We're following through the plan. Last year is a bit of drama because there was no plan as to how many officers would be hired. I thought, wait a second, this does not work. So I asked the budget chief to be on the police service board to work out a staffing plan. She did that, and she said to the chief, let's just settle that one, and then we will have a budgetary increase that are, reasonable. It's about 1% of a city tax, like per 1% is $48 million. It's about 1% in terms of the increase.
All right, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.